Hey guys, it's Joseph Lucero with powerliftingtechnique.com, and today what we're going to talk about are the 3 common mistakes people make when they bench press. Now, when you bench press, you want to make sure that you're in a really good position to perform as best as possible. So what's interesting enough is that these 3 common mistakes have to do with your positioning and your setup. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about these setup issues and how these 3 little tips are going to make you improve your pressing performance to have a much better dominating bench press. So the first common mistake people make when they bench press is scapular retraction. So to kind of start backwards from square one, the biggest issue with bench press outright is positioning. So getting into the power position, and that power position is when you're in an arching position. So when people arch, the problem is they don't arch and create scapular retraction, which means bringing the shoulder blades together. Now, the reason why you want to have your shoulder blades together is because it's a stronger position to help decelerate the weight to your chest in order to press as much weight possible off your chest. It really goes back to Newton's laws of physics and movement. So with every action is a reaction, opposing forces need to be as equal as possible. When you bench press, it's all about the chest. But if your back's not strong enough, it can't counterbalance your pressing power, so it makes it very limiting in that way. So one big thing we want to make sure is that we have scapular retraction as best as possible. Imagine taking a cold shower and your shoulder blades pinched together. That's what you want to create when you start with your position on the bench press. So make sure that when you bench press, you bring your shoulder blades together and keep them tight. Not just for the pressing motion, but from start to finish. All right, so now let's talk about the second mistake a lot of people make when they bench press, and it's foot position. So this one is arguable, or is a big argument amongst people in the community that talk about where to place your feet. And for me, I advocate for a flat foot because the more foot that covers the ground, the more control you have. But regardless of having a flat foot or benching on your toes, your feet need to be behind your knees when you set up. So what that would look like is you get on the bench and make sure that when you start working your arch, your power position, that you retract your shoulder blades, which is the first mistake people make, and then make sure your feet are behind your knees. So your feet shouldn't be just below the knees, they should be a little bit behind. Now, a lot of people will put their feet beyond their knees so that they can't raise their hips when they press in like competition. But if you want to keep your arch from start to finish of your bench press, your feet need to be behind your knees so you can keep your body tight. It all goes back to what we talked about earlier. In order to have a strong press, you need to have a strong setup, which corresponds to keeping your back tight so you can decelerate the weight and be in control of your press. So the second common mistake people do is having their feet below or beyond their knees. Make sure to pull them back and try as best as possible to put a little weight on your feet so that from start to finish, you're in more control of a more dominating bench press. Now, the third common issue with people's bench press has to do with leg drive. A lot of people don't understand what leg drive is. They think that when the press command occurs or when you're pressing the weight off your chest, you have to slam your feet into the floor. It's almost like that causes a delayed reaction, and that means that the whole time maybe you weren't tense enough in your power position to deliver a stronger and more efficient bench press. So to go back to what we talked about earlier, leg drive is kind of a confusing concept for some people. So I try to establish it like this. The overall arching theme of this video is that people struggle with their power position, getting ready for a good bench. Make sure that for the power position, you arch, so you're trying to bring your shoulder blades and glutes together. You're trying to create a curve with your spine so your chest is more elevated. But when that happens, you need to make sure that your shoulder blades are retracted, your feet are behind your knees, and then when your feet are behind your knees, go ahead and start putting weight on your feet. So it's like almost as if your hips are wanting to come off the bench, but they're not. So when I unrack the weight, my shoulder blades are retracted, I make sure that my feet are behind my knees so that I have more control of my press, and I'm putting weight on my feet so that when I do press off my chest, I already have contact with the floor, and there's not that delayed reaction sometimes you see with people where they try to stomp their feet into the ground and create a press out of that fashion. So definitely the third most common mistake is leg drive, mostly because people don't understand what leg drive is. But leg drive is your ability to push off the floor so that you maintain more control with your press. Now, make sure that with your leg drive, you don't think that it happens after your press command. It needs to happen from start to finish. You want to put weight on your feet before the press happens and keep it throughout the whole motion to have more stability, more control, and to deliver a stronger press than you have before.